It doesn't make sense. This shouldn't be possible, Zarnak muttered, staring at the image on the holographic screen in disbelief. The entire council room fell silent. Even the alien figures standing in the corners of the room, tall, with glowing blue skin and eyes that swirled like galaxies, held their breath. The evidence didn't lie, but the facts were impossible. How can one of us die like this? In a way, no one has ever died before. The room was thick with tension. The murder of Lieutenant Varn, a respected officer in the intergalactic defense force of the Tylos system, had baffled everyone. The alien species that dominated the Tylos galaxy prided themselves on their advanced tech, their ability to predict outcomes with precision, and their flawless handling of crime. But this was different. Something about it felt wrong. Even for the most brilliant minds in the galaxy, this case was beyond them. But then, the door to the council room slid open with a quiet hiss. "Sorry I'm late." A human voice rang out, calm and confident. "I was stuck in traffic. It's crazy out there, you know?" All eyes turned to the figure standing in the doorway. The human, Alex Sanders, an investigator sent to the galaxy's most distant star system on an unusual diplomatic mission, was far from what anyone had expected. With messy brown hair, worn jeans, and an air of casual indifference, Alex hardly seemed like someone who could unravel the web of complex alien culture and politics. But in that moment, as the Council of Aliens exchanged uncertain glances, Alex just smiled. "You're all staring at me like I'm the one who murdered the lieutenant. Let me guess, you have no idea who did it, right?" Zarnak, the head of the council, stood up. His 8 slender arms moved in coordinated precision, a display of his species' natural grace. "You may be Earth's finest, but this is beyond your understanding. This crime, it defies logic." Alex leaned back against the wall casually, crossing their arms. "Oh, I understand all right," Alex said with a grin. "I've solved way weirder stuff back on Earth. This murder? It's actually pretty simple." The aliens all exchanged confused glances. Was this human for real? Zarnak's voice was steady, but tinged with frustration. "We've reviewed the evidence for weeks. There is no known technology or method that could have killed Lieutenant Varn in the manner we found him. It seems impossible." Alex raised an eyebrow, unfazed. "I know, and that's exactly why you're stuck." The human's eyes twinkled with a mix of challenge and curiosity. "Let's take a step back here. You're looking at the problem all wrong." The council stared, unsure whether to be intrigued or insulted. Alex continued, voice steady and confident. "I'm going to solve this, but you'll have to let me do it my way." Alex's gaze swept across the room. "The answer is something none of you would have considered. You've been thinking like aliens, but that's where you went wrong. You need to think like a human." The room filled with murmurs. An alien, one of the species known as the Xylan, tilted his head. "But humans, aren't you the species that can barely manage their own planet? How could you possibly?" Alex interrupted with a smile. "Because we don't overthink. We don't complicate things with our perfect logic. And that's where you're missing the point. You're trying to explain something that's beyond your understanding. What if the murder isn't as complicated as you think? What if it's just simple?" The council waited in dead silence, each of them processing the words that had just been spoken. "Simple," Zarnak repeated, his voice slowly gaining intrigue. "Are you suggesting this murder could have been committed in a way we haven't considered?" Alex nodded slowly. "That's exactly it. Lieutenant Varn was found dead in his quarters, with no apparent sign of violence. His body lay still, as though he were simply sleeping, except for the strange, glowing marks around his throat which resembled energy burns. The area around him was undisturbed, his personal belongings untouched. For all intents and purposes, he hadn't been attacked in any conventional way. There were no weapons, no DNA, no traces of alien toxins or biological agents. The Xylan, a species known for their sharp intellect, had assumed that someone or something had bypassed every known security measure to commit the perfect crime. The Tylosians, with their advanced technology, had ruled out the idea of a simple murder. The Zetrans, a race with a long history of manipulating biological systems, had tried to find any clue in the victim's physiology, only to find nothing. It seemed like the perfect crime. And yet, something about it didn't sit right with Alex. Alex took a moment to look at the map of the scene, the complex diagrams and advanced alien tech that had failed to provide any answers. You're not seeing it because you're too focused on technology. That's your downfall. They pointed at the diagram, a 3D holographic recreation of the scene. Look at this. Varn's body was perfectly preserved, nothing touched. But you missed something important, the smallest, simplest detail. The air in the room. Air? Zarnak asked, his voice growing tense. Alex nodded. The air. The temperature, the moisture levels, the oxygen balance. All of this tells a story. Alex ran a hand through their hair. You've been treating the crime as though it's some kind of alien anomaly, but maybe it's not. Maybe the solution isn't in advanced tech. Maybe it's in the basics of life. Zarnak's eyes narrowed. What are you suggesting? I'm suggesting that Lieutenant Varn was killed by something so simple that it slipped your mind, Alex said with an almost playful grin. I think he suffocated. The room went silent. Alex's theory was simple, but it was something no one had considered. The murder wasn't about advanced tech or some unimaginable alien weapon. It was a human perspective on the most basic, primal form of murder, suffocation. But the room was sealed. No air could have been deprived, or could it? What if someone had manipulated the oxygen supply, just enough to render the victim unconscious, but without triggering any alarms or noticeable changes? The council looked at each other, still skeptical, but Alex kept pressing. You've all been looking for something that isn't there, using complex systems and technologies. But sometimes, the answer is so simple. You just need to see things from a different angle. It's how humans think. We solve problems without overcomplicating them. The key had been the air circulation system. The room, a state-of-the-art facility, had been designed to automatically adjust the oxygen levels for optimal efficiency. But if someone with access to the system, had adjusted the settings to cut off the oxygen supply just enough to cause the lieutenant to fall unconscious, his body would have appeared untouched. And then, once the system adjusted back to normal, there would be no sign of a struggle or any other external causes. The council, stunned into silence, finally began to understand. Simple, Zarnak muttered, now looking at Alex with a mix of awe and respect. The answer was staring us in the face the entire time. Exactly, Alex said with a satisfied grin. Sometimes the most complex problems just need a fresh set of eyes, and a willingness to think differently. From that moment on, Alex was not just Earth's finest investigator. They were a hero in the Tylos galaxy. A human had solved the greatest mystery the galaxy's most advanced civilizations couldn't even begin to comprehend. And the best part? Alex knew this wasn't the last time their unique perspective would be needed. Alex stood up from the table, still grinning at the group of aliens, their eyes wide with disbelief. See, sometimes you just have to strip everything down to the basics. You're all thinking too big, too complex. But the answer was right in front of you. Zarnak, who had always prided himself on his species' intellect, rubbed his 4 eyes in frustration. It's so simple, he muttered, still trying to process it. But how could we have missed it? Because you weren't looking for the obvious, Alex replied. Everyone always assumes the complicated answers are the right ones. But sometimes, it's the little things that matter. The air, the atmosphere, the things no one notices until it's too late. A Zetran, one of the species with advanced knowledge of biological systems, crossed his arms and squinted. This isn't a theory, is it? You're suggesting someone manipulated the life support system? Exactly, Alex said, nodding. And there's no trace of it because the system did its job perfectly. It slowly lowered the oxygen just enough to knock him out, without setting off any alarms. No physical evidence, no toxins. Just a dead man in a sealed room. The council exchanged glances. It was a difficult pill to swallow. For eons, they had been taught that their intelligence, their technological advancements, were the ultimate tools to solve any problem. But Alex had just shown them that even the smartest beings could overlook the simplest of solutions. What happens now? Zarnak asked, his voice softer now, the gravity of the situation sinking in. Alex gave a small shrug. Now, we find out who did it. Someone had access to the life support system. Someone with the means to tamper with it without leaving a trace. We find that person, and we solve the rest of the puzzle. The aliens began to gather their thoughts, murmuring among themselves. But Alex wasn't interested in the theory anymore. They needed action. We don't have time to waste. Whoever did this is still out there. And if they're clever enough to pull off something like this, they're probably planning something bigger. Alex paused, letting the weight of the statement hang in the air. You might be brilliant, but you're missing one thing. The most dangerous criminals aren't the ones who rely on tech. They're the ones who know how to play people. The council fell silent again, the room now filled with a sense of urgency. The murder of Lieutenant Varn had shaken them to their core. For all their advancements, they were vulnerable. And now, this human had just handed them the key to the whole mystery. It was only when Zarnak spoke again, his voice firm, that everyone turned back to the task at hand. Alex Sanders, you've proven yourself capable of seeing beyond the limits of our understanding. If you say this is the way forward, we'll follow your lead. But know this, if you fail, we'll all be to blame. Alex nodded, accepting the responsibility. I won't fail. Not this time. As the council dispersed to begin the investigation, Alex found themselves walking alone in the hallway outside the chamber. The tension of the meeting still hung in the air, but for the first time since their arrival in the galaxy, Alex felt something close to satisfaction. They had cracked the case wide open, and now it was only a matter of time before the pieces fell into place. But as Alex walked, a strange feeling crept up their spine. It was a gut instinct, one they trusted after years of working in the most dangerous corners of Earth. Someone was watching. They weren't alone. Spinning around, Alex scanned the hallway. Empty, but their instincts told them to keep moving. Meanwhile, inside the council chamber, Zarnak was in deep conversation with his closest advisors. This human, they see things we can't. They're not like us. The Xylan, ever the skeptic, frowned. It's unsettling. I've never seen a species so unpredictable. Zarnak stood up and looked out the large glass windows, gazing at the distant stars. That's what makes them dangerous. They don't think like us. They think differently. And that's why we need them. But what if they're hiding something? The Zetran's voice was low, filled with suspicion. What if their simple solution was just a diversion? Zarnak turned, locking eyes with the Zetran. Trust them. For now, we'll follow their lead. But we'll also keep a watchful eye. We can't afford to let anyone get too close to the truth. Back in the corridors, Alex made their way to the security station. They had a feeling, no, a certainty, that there was something more at play here. The council had missed it, but they weren't about to let it slip away. Someone was hiding something, and they were going to find out who. As Alex entered the control room, the technician, a tall alien with silver skin and a series of intricate markings across their face, looked up in surprise. Alex Sanders, what are you doing here? The council is... I know, Alex interrupted. The council's busy, but I need access to the life support records for Lieutenant Varn's quarters. Something doesn't sit right with me. The technician hesitated, glancing toward the door as though worried someone might overhear. That's irregular. You don't have clearance for that. Alex didn't budge. You don't need to worry about me. Just do your job. After a tense moment, the technician reluctantly typed in a series of codes on the console. This will only take a moment. But I'm telling you, this is a restricted area. I'm not here to cause trouble, Alex said, leaning in. I'm just here to find the truth. The screen blinked to life, showing a detailed log of the life support system's activity. Alex scanned the data quickly, their mind working in overdrive. There it was, an anomaly. A slight fluctuation in the oxygen levels, too small to be noticed by anyone else. It wasn't enough to trigger alarms, but it was enough to cause unconsciousness. What the hell? Alex whispered, their finger tapping the screen. Someone had tampered with the records, altering the oxygen levels in a way that left no trace. Whoever did this knew exactly what they were doing, Alex murmured to themselves. And they're still here. The next few days were a blur of investigation, subterfuge, and mounting tension. The deeper Alex dug, the more the aliens seemed to withdraw, as if the murder was a symptom of something far larger. It wasn't just about one man's death anymore. There were whispers of corruption in the highest ranks. Politics, power, secrets. As the puzzle pieces came together, Alex realized that solving this crime wasn't just about finding a murderer. It was about unearthing a conspiracy that threatened the entire galaxy. And as the days wore on, Alex began to understand the stakes. The aliens had underestimated the human perspective, but soon, they would see that Earth's simplest solutions weren't just the answer to the murder. They were the answer to everything. As Alex prepared for the final confrontation, they couldn't shake the feeling that the worst was yet to come. The person who had orchestrated the murder of Lieutenant Varn hadn't just killed one man. They had set something much larger in motion. Understand. But one thing was clear. Whoever was behind it was powerful, and they would stop at nothing to protect their secrets. The only question now was whether Alex could stop them before it was too late. The days that followed were a blur of tension. Alex couldn't shake the feeling that time was running out. The deeper they dug into the investigation, the more Alex felt like they were being watched. They weren't just investigating a murder anymore. Something far more sinister was at play. The council members seemed to be circling the case like predators, and Alex began to realize that not everyone in the room had the same goals. There were forces moving in the shadows, trying to prevent the truth from coming to light. But Alex wouldn't be deterred. Their eyes were set on the prize, and they were determined to get to the heart of the conspiracy. It was late one evening when Alex stumbled upon a break in the case. They had been reviewing encrypted files from the life support system again, looking for any signs of tampering. The technician had been hesitant to help, but Alex had persuaded them, offering a subtle nod of gratitude as they uncovered a line of code buried deep within the system's logs. It was an anomaly, a string of characters that had been placed there, perhaps as a decoy, perhaps to hide something far more important, a trace of an unauthorized access point. Alex quickly decrypted it and found a name, Alara. The name didn't ring a bell at first, but the more Alex thought about it, the more it sounded like something they had heard before. Alara was a member of the Zetran delegation, one of the most influential species in the galaxy, known for their keen ability to manipulate biological systems. It wasn't a name that came up in casual conversation, but it was a name that had lingered just beneath the surface of the investigation. Is it possible? Alex whispered, their heart racing. Could one of the most trusted figures in the council be the one behind it all? They quickly made their way to the Zetran's private quarters. As Alex approached Alara's quarters, they noticed a strange quietness in the air, as though the hallways themselves were holding their breath. The building, designed to be the pinnacle of alien architecture, hummed with a soft, constant energy. But tonight, it felt different. There was a palpable tension, as if the walls themselves were watching. Alara's door was slightly ajar. Alex hesitated for a moment, then pushed it open quietly. The room was dimly lit, the shadows stretching long across the floor. But there, in the center of the room, Alex saw something that made their blood run cold. A large holographic projector, still running. On the screen, there was a recording of the council meeting from days earlier. Zarnak's voice, the council's arguments, and hidden beneath the noise of the voices, Alex saw it. The face of Alara. The Zetran had been watching everything. Every move. Every conversation. And then it clicked. Alara hadn't just been an innocent bystander. They had orchestrated it all. The murder, the cover-up, and the power play that was still unfolding. As Alex began to piece the puzzle together, a door behind them clicked open. Looking for something human? Alara's cold voice echoed in the quiet room. Alex spun around, their heart racing. Alara stood in the doorway, their expression unreadable. A flash of something, danger, passed through their eyes. Alex knew they had been caught. You've been one step ahead of me the entire time, Alex said, not bothering to hide their frustration. I should have known you were behind it. You've been manipulating the system from the start. Alara's lips curled into a thin smile. You're clever, but not clever enough. They stepped further into the room, their tall figure towering over Alex. You don't understand the scope of what's happening here. This isn't just about a murder. This is about control. Alex felt their pulse quicken. Control? What are you talking about? The council is weak, Alara continued. their voice dripping with disdain. The Tylos system is fragmented. It's too slow, too indecisive. And the Zetrans, well, we're tired of being second-rate players. The murder of Lieutenant Varn wasn't just a means to eliminate an obstacle. It was the beginning. It was a test. A test? Alex repeated, not sure they wanted to know the answer. Of course, Alara said, stepping closer, their voice becoming more insistent. I needed to see how the council would react, how they would flounder. And I knew you, human, would be the one to uncover the truth. So predictable. So simple. You're crazy, Alex said, backing away slightly. This isn't a game. People are dying. They're always dying, human, Alara sneered. The universe is full of death. But with control, I can shape it. I can reshape this galaxy into something better. Alara's eyes glittered with an unsettling intensity. Do you think the Tylosians have the strength to rule? Do you think Zarnak has the wisdom? No. Only the Zetrans can bring true order. And I'll do whatever it takes to make it happen. Alex realized that they were running out of time. The truth had been buried in layers of deception, and now Alara was ready to move forward with a plan that could change the galaxy forever. It wasn't just a political power play. It was a quest for absolute dominance. With a final glance at the room, Alex made a split-second decision. They grabbed a nearby datapad and accessed the security systems once more. It wasn't much, but it would buy them enough time. Alara saw what Alex was doing and moved with lightning speed, knocking the datapad from their hands. You think you can stop me? You can't. You're nothing but a distraction. But Alex didn't back down. Maybe, but I can expose you. You won't get away with this. Alara lunged at Alex, but in that moment, the door to the quarters exploded open. The council's security, led by Zarnak himself, rushed in, weapons raised. Alara, you're under arrest. For a moment, there was a stunned silence. Alara's face twisted in fury, but they quickly composed themselves, turning to the council with a cold, calculating expression. You've been played. All of you. Zarnak stepped forward, his voice steady. You've betrayed us all, Alara. The galaxy won't stand for this. The following hours were a blur of interrogations, revelations, and political maneuvering. Alara's plan was revealed in full. The murder of Lieutenant Varn had been a mere distraction, a test to see how far they could push the council. The real scheme involved the manipulation of the life support systems to create a false sense of peace, a perfect utopia that would lure the galaxy's citizens into complacency, only to control them once they were too dependent on the technology. With a network of covert agents, Alara had intended to seize control of the council and overthrow the leadership, ushering in a new era where only the Zetrans held power. But Alara had underestimated one thing: the human perspective. Alex had seen the cracks in the plan, had recognized the simplest details that no one else could see. They had solved the murder and uncovered the conspiracy, preventing a catastrophe before it could begin. The council was left reeling from the discovery, their trust in each other shattered. Zarnak turned to Alex, his eyes filled with something rare: respect. You've done what none of us could. The galaxy owes you a debt we can never repay. Alex smiled, though the weight of the situation still lingered in their mind. I didn't do it alone. I just saw the truth. The real question is, how do we fix this? Zarnak nodded, his voice serious. Together, we rebuild. But now we know that we can't afford to be blind. We must remain vigilant, always. As Alex left the council chamber, they couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning. The galaxy was vast, its mysteries endless. But Alex had proven one thing. Sometimes, it was the simplest solutions that saved the day. And with that, they knew their journey wasn't over. Not by a long shot.